All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today and joining us for today's informational webinar on the Community Power Accelerator Prize. We are so happy that you are here and we're looking forward to telling you all about this amazing opportunity. My name is Emily Evans and I'm from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. I am the prize administrator for the Community Power Accelerator Prize, and I am pleased to be joined today by Nicole Steele, the Community Power Accelerator Program Manager from the U.S. Department of Energy Solar Technology Office. A few housekeeping items before we dive in. We're on Zoom, everyone's really familiar with it. There's two audio options. You can listen through your computer, you can call in. Sometimes if your computer isn't working, calling in is your next best option. Please use the Q&A box for our to submit questions. We will be having a live Q&A at the end of today's presentation. And note that we're going to answer all the questions that we're able to get to, but if we don't get to your question for whatever reason, we will be posting written responses to all the questions that we received to HeroX following today's webinar. And if you have any trouble with the webinar, any technical difficulties, feel free to chat Jackie Petrie. She is our host today. But if all else fails, we will be posting a recording of both the video and the slides of today's webinar. And you'll be able to find those on HeroX. For our agenda today, we're going to plan to cover 5 topics and then end up with Q&A. We're going to talk about the National Community Solar Partnership and Community Power Accelerator. We're going to give an overview of both of those two great programs. Then we're going to focus in on the Community Power Accelerator Prize, give you a high-level overview, and then really dive into the details of what you need to know to be successful in phase 1. We'll wrap up with an overview of what to expect in phases 2 and 3, and some action items for how you can get started in the prize if you're curious. Then with any time remaining, we will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. The American Made program is proud to host the Community Accelerator Prize. For those of you who might be unfamiliar with the American Made program, it is powered by DOE and administered by NREL to incentivize innovation through prizes, teaming, and mentoring. If you'd like to learn more about American Made or join our amazing American Made network, please visit americanmadechallenges.org, and we're going to go ahead and drop that link in the chat. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Nicole Steele to provide an overview of the National Community Solar Partnership and the recently launched Community Power Accelerator Program. Nicole, over to you.
Thanks so much, Emily. I'm really excited to be here today to talk to everyone on the call about just sort of the context of what this prize is supporting. And so some of you may be familiar with the National Community Solar Partnership. This is a program that I have been leading over the last 2 years in the Department of Energy under the Workforce and Equitable Access team that I lead in the Solar Energy Technologies Office. So this is an initiative of the National Community Solar Partnership, otherwise known as the Community Power Accelerator, and it was launched back at the annual NCSP Summit just a week and a half ago on January 19th. So we're really excited to be diving into the details on how you can get involved with not only the accelerator, but engage in the prize itself. So let's go to the next slide. Again, giving some context on how we got to the development of the accelerator and the prize itself. So the National Community Solar Partnership has been around since 2016, funded in 2019, and really set this new goal for the organization back in 2021 to ensure that there's enough community solar in the United States to power the equivalent of 5 million households with $1 billion in savings, all by 2025. Now, we looked at what status quo would have done over that time. And really what it is a 700% increase in deployment. So from 5 gigawatts of community solar back in 2021 to 20 gigawatts of community solar in the United States by 2025. It also recognizes a doubling in the average subscription savings that a community solar subscription provider would be getting. And so, once we established those goals, we also did a deep dive on understanding what the challenges and barriers that the industry and community and partners just in the community solar space generally were facing, one of which, and zeroing in on this yellow dot in the middle, was access to capital. And so as we started to really think about what the actual issues are around access to capital, we began to better understand it's really those organizations that are not only trying to break into the space and do really good work in the community solar space and really create sort of like the operational needs and the capacity building that they need. But it also included those organizations that were trying to weave more meaningful benefits into their projects. And so that access to capital is more nuanced than just capital per se. And as we all know, there's about to be an incredible amount of funding resources out on the ground, but how do we actually access those funding resources? And this is exactly what the Accelerator is meant to do. So let's go to the next slide so I can talk a little bit more about what I mean by meaningful benefits. So these are what we call the 5 meaningful benefits of community solar. And so these are really how we define at the Department of Energy community solar generally. And so there's lots of different types of community solar business models out there, but we really care about what that community solar does. And so is that community solar accessible by all different types of households, including low to moderate income households? Does that community solar provide household savings? And does that savings provide an energy burden reduction? And so really drilling down on like, what's the maximum type of savings that a community solar facility can provide? The other types of benefits that community solar can provide around resiliency and storage and grid strengthening, as well as asset ownership and wealth building. And then obviously workforce development, jobs, and entrepreneurship development. And so really zeroing in on those 5 benefits. These 5 benefits do map directly back to the Justice 40 initiative, which for those of you who are not familiar with Justice 40, is a administration-wide or a whole of government goal of ensuring that as we go through this clean energy transition, a minimum of 40% of the benefits do flow to disadvantaged communities. So really these benefits are mapped directly back to that and really provide sort of an overarching lens to everything that NCSP does. So let's go to the next slide. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened when we started talking about that access to capital problem, or that access to capital challenge that many stakeholders had identified. And so when we really started to dig in, we realized there were sort of 3 things that we needed to dive into. And one was sort of standardizing that process when folks are having conversations with lending institutions. And so one of the things we heard was, X organization would go to X lender and they would ask for X, Y, and Z. And then they would go to another lender and they would ask for A, B, and C. And so it was just incredibly difficult to continue to have those types of conversations since everyone was asking for different information. And so what we did was work with a set of lending institutions and investors, which included commercial banks, CDFIs, green banks, and everybody in between, including philanthropy, to really identify how to standardize that process. The next goal is to really expand capacity and expertise in those organizations that are looking to do community solar with that sort of mission-aligned community focus that so many of us, I think, on this call today are interested in. And then last but not least, really help facilitate that robust pipeline of projects and that robust pipeline of organizations doing the work. So let's go to the next slide. And so there's many different types of stakeholders that are part of the Community Power Accelerator that make the Community Power Accelerator work. And those include the lender investor organizations that I mentioned earlier, philanthropy organizations that really can help provide some of that gap funding that many folks in the lending space don't necessarily lend to. So maybe some of those pre-development dollars or more capacity building dollars where philanthropy can play a role. Also the developers, those are the folks who are actually going through the accelerator itself, and really taking advantage of all the elements, and so that projects can get funded in the end. Community-based organizations, to ensure that, maybe they have a role as a co-developer in this space. Maybe they want to ensure that, community solar is benefiting the community rather than just the developer itself. And so ensuring that those organizations have a role as well. And then we have a number of technical assistance experts that are engaged with the accelerator to help facilitate those developers to work through the process, and then obviously the NCSP team. So it really does take a village to make this successful. And I really apologize for my camera getting weird. We have energy efficiency efforts here at DOE, and my lights have turned off. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the elements that are happening as part of the accelerator. And these are different elements that we created over the past 18 months to make sure that we were creating an ecosystem, like I mentioned before, an ecosystem of partners that then have sort of these ecosystem of elements that, the partners sort of engage with. And so there is an online platform that all of those partners are able to connect with. There is what we call the credit ready checklist, the organizational profile, and the project profiles. Those are all on that platform. And that's how projects and lending institutions are standardizing those questions on how to get a project financed. And so that really does lead back to sort of goal number one that I mentioned earlier. There's what we call the Community Power Learning Lab, and that's run by the University of New Hampshire's Carsey School of Impact Finance. And they run a virtual curriculum that really helps identify the soup to nuts on how to develop community solar with meaningful benefits. And so anyone going through the accelerator or the prize would go through the learning lab as well. And then a couple other elements to the accelerator itself. We created a philanthropy ready guide, a technical assistance program, and then obviously what we're talking about here today is the prize funding. So let's go to the next slide. I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly because I had already mentioned them and I know my time is limited. So I mentioned the online platform. And so this is where everyone who is going to engage in the accelerator joins. They go to communitypower.energy.gov and they sign up to be a member of the National Community Solar Partnership, but they also sign up to be a member of the Community Power Accelerator. And you come on board and you develop an organizational profile. And then ultimately, once you have projects that you want lending institutions and investors to see, you will fill out that information on the platform and be able to engage on the platform in that way with the investor and philanthropy organizations. So this is a really exciting sort of marketplace of sorts that allows for folks to look for not only lending institutions that have agreed to use this standardized guidance, but also vice versa for those lending institutions to see what projects are out there and looking for financing. So let's go to the next slide. So I mentioned the learning lab, and this is one of the most exciting elements of the accelerator from my perspective, because when I was developing community solar, there was pieces that I wished that I knew after getting through many projects. And so, the idea is that this is helping folks truly understand all of the nuts and bolts of deploying community solar with meaningful benefits, ensuring that you're engaging community, ensuring that those community solar facilities are coming online in an efficient and a timely way because you've done your due diligence. And not only have you done your due diligence, but you've answered the questions that lending institutions are looking for and that are engaged on the platform and are able to be connected to those lending institutions as soon as you get to that point in your process and you're not looking for them, and that they actually are here already on the accelerator. And so this is an 8-week course. It is interactive, it's live. So there are instructors that would be taking folks through the course, and here are some of the topics that course covers. So let's jump to the next slide. And then, yes, thank you, Jackie. She's dropping some great links in the chat for you guys to check out while we're talking in afterwards as well. And so I've mentioned the technical assistance program a couple of times. You know, this program as part of the Accelerator will assist any developer going through the Accelerator with that credit ready checklist. So it's about a 50 question checklist to ensure that your project is ready to create a project profile and really start engaging with lending institutions that are interested in financing projects. And so that TA provider will really help you get to that finish line of how do I answer these questions? Who do I need to talk to? What types of work do we need to do in order to get to a point where a lending institution is going to be interested in financing your project? And then any other additional TA needs. You know, there may be other organizational questions, policy questions, programmatic outreach questions that our TA program more generally as part of the National Community Solar Partnership are ready to support in as well. So let's go to the next slide. Here's the sort of famous credit ready checklist and project profile that I've mentioned a number of times. I'm not going to go into detail here, but when you do sign up to participate on the Accelerator itself, you will be able to see the types of questions that are in the project profile and the credit ready checklist as well. And so again, these were created through a work stream of investor organizations. And so like I said before, commercial banks, CDFIs, green banks, and then any other type of lending institution. There was about 35 of them that created this list and are on the Accelerator today that have agreed to utilize the list as a standardized practice to really start having those initial conversations. So let's go to the next slide. And I had mentioned the Philanthropy Ready Guide as well. This is also a resource that's available on the platform. So again, communitypower.energy.gov. And the goal of this guide really came out of the philanthropy work stream where we had about 20 different philanthropic organizations involved over the past year or so. And the idea is it's a nice guide that helps organizations who maybe want to be able to interact with philanthropy better and to increase both the quantity and the quality of proposals going to philanthropy that are part of this ecosystem. So let's go to the next slide. And I think this is my last slide, but just wanted to kind of give you a smattering of the types of partners that are engaged in the Accelerator today. These partners are everyone from lending institutions to philanthropic institutions to partner organizations that are helped build the Accelerator out over the past year and a half. And so these are some folks that you'll be working with if you are engaged on the Accelerator or in the prize. So with that, we can go to the next slide and I can hand it back over to Emily to really dive into the details of the prize itself. So thanks so much and really look forward to seeing the questions that you might have in the chat, and we'll take some time to try to address those as they come in. So thanks again and take it away, Emily.
Thank you, Nicole. Really appreciate that overview and background on the NCSP as well as the broader Accelerator program. But like Nicole said, let's dive into those details about the prize itself. So you may be out there asking yourself, well, what is the Community Power Accelerator Prize all about? In a nutshell, this prize is a $10 million three-phase prize designed to fast track the efforts of new and emerging and expanding solar developers, as well as co-developers, to learn, participate in, and get financing for multiple successful community solar projects. This prize is seeking to increase the number of equitable community solar projects. And we're going to accomplish that by providing funding in the form of cash awards throughout the project pre-development process, tools and resources, just like Nicole was talking about. We're going to provide that Accelerator platform where developers can connect with private sector financing, training through the Learning Lab and our partners over at the University of New Hampshire to really understand the full cycle of the community solar development, as well as free consulting for competitors on the necessary steps to get a community solar project financed. And that's really going back to that credit ready checklist. And finally, coaching. In phases 2 and 3 of the prize, we're going to be expanding, working on providing coaching on how to expand developers' solar customer markets. As I mentioned, this is a $10 million prize. This is the largest single prize that DOE Solar Technology Office has run to date. And I think that speaks volumes about the importance that community solar has on the clean energy revolution and what we want to see come from the solar or the community solar community. The table that you see here details the prize amounts for the 3 stages of the prize. Phase 1 winners will receive $50,000 per winner and the opportunity to participate in phase 2. Phase 2 winners will receive $200,000 per winner and the opportunity to participate in phase 3. And in phase 3, winners are going to receive $150,000 per winner. Note that once your team is selected in phase 1 as a winner, there is no further down select, which means that all teams who are successful and win phase 1 have the opportunity to win phase 2 and phase 3 awards, as long as you meet the requirements of that phase. Also, I always like to highlight that the neat thing about prizes and prize awards is that the money that your team receives as part of the prize is for work that was already completed during that phase. So once you win, there's no additional strings attached to that money. It's yours to use however you see fit. Now, looking at the 3 phases of the prize that we've lightly touched on, the Community Accelerator Prize will have 3 phases: Ready, Set, and Grow. The current phase, phase 1 Ready, opened on January 19th and runs through March 15th. And the goal of this phase is to really identify those new or expanding community solar developers and co-developers who are going to be able to develop that 1 megawatt portfolio of equitable community solar that includes at least 2 of those meaningful benefits that Nicole was talking about. Really important to note that you must apply and win phase 1 to be eligible for phase 2. If you miss phase 1, you won't be able to compete in phases 2 and 3. So really, really important that you get your application in. In phase 2, winners from phase 1 are going to be building upon will build their capacity by participating in the Learning Lab and getting ready for phase 3 by completing that credit ready checklist. Phase 2 competitors are also going to receive support from the Accelerator's technical assistance experts. And then finally in phase 3, phase 2 winners will engage in the Community Power Accelerator in that online platform more fully to secure investment commitments for their community solar portfolio of at least 1 megawatt. Looking at now who can participate in this prize, the Community Power Accelerator Prize is open to U.S. community solar developers, which includes new developers, co-developers, those organizations who are partnering with a project developer, and those who are expanding their community solar operations. Specifically, this prize is seeking developers who have the desire and ambition to develop a project portfolio of at least 1 megawatt of community solar with meaningful benefits incorporated. That's really important and really fundamental to the prize. And then one final note that single projects are not eligible for this prize. We're looking for a portfolio of at least 1 megawatt. And I'd really like to underscore that this prize is encouraging organizations who are new to community solar development to apply. So this would be organizations such as multi-family affordable housing providers, community and economic development organizations, and intermediary organizations, CBOs, general contractors, traditional solar developers who are looking to expand into the community solar space. Socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, as well as women and minority-owned businesses. In particular, we are definitely looking for your participation, and other large real estate holders. So if you're out there and you're listening to this today and wondering if you should apply, even if you don't have that direct community solar experience, the answer is yes. We definitely want to hear from you. Before we dive into the details of the Phase 1 Ready contest, I just want to remind everyone that if you have a question about today's presentation that you would like us to answer, please make sure you're dropping that into the Q&A box and not into the chat. It might get lost in the chat, but we'll definitely see it in the Q&A. And we'll be answering questions at the end of today's presentation and following up with written responses to everyone's question. Yeah, so let's now take a deeper look into the Phase 1 Ready and what you need to know to be successful. So as we said, Phase 1 is the first of 3 Community Power Accelerator prize phases, and it's going to award up to 25 competitors with $50,000 each in cash prizes. The goal of Phase 1 is to identify those new or expanding community solar developers. And Phase 1 winners, this is really important, will need to plan to designate a single individual to participate in the Community Power Accelerator Prize Learning Lab. And that Learning Lab is going to run from April 27th through June 29th. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. The Phase 1 contest is open now, and the submission deadline is March 15th at 5 p.m. Eastern. We are anticipating a winner announcement around mid-April 2023, and the official rules and Phase 1 submission form can both be found on HeroX, which is our prize platform. And now we're going to take a moment here to do a live walkthrough of HeroX. We've dropped the link into the chat, or will drop the link into the chat to HeroX. And I really encourage each of you to go ahead and follow along with me as I show you how to sign up for the prize. I'll also be showing you where to find key information and how to use HeroX in general. So give us just 2 moments while I share my screen here. Okay. Jackie, let me know if you can't see it. All right. So here's HeroX. You will see that I am at herox.com/community power accelerator. That is the URL that will take you to this page. I am signed in here. So when I go to click on the follow button, it's just going to let me follow the prize. If you are new to HeroX, it will pop up and ask you to create an account or log into your account. Both are really easy. Just a name and email is all you need. But following the prize is your #1 action item from today's presentation. We will be posting all of our information, resources, notifications, updates about the prize to HeroX. So if you want to make sure that you receive all of the updates, going and following the prize is really important. If you'd like to officially sign up as a competitor, your next step will be to click on the Solve This Challenge button. It's going to ask that you accept a competitor agreement, click accept, and then it's going to give you some options. You can create your own team, you can join a team, or you can compete individually. Note that this function is really just a function of who has access to your team's application in HeroX. So let's say you wanted to have a couple different people working on it. You would want to create your own team or join an existing team. Or if you're really just one person who's going to be uploading all the information, no one else needs access, you can go ahead and say, no, I want to compete individually. So that is what I'm going to do. And note that you can always change this later. So it's going to say you've successfully completed your registration. To start your submission, click on the Begin Entry button. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on the Begin Entry button. It's going to take me to the Create Submission form. This is the Phase 1 submission form, and it's going to ask you for a series. It's going to ask you a series of questions, give your submission a title, give us a short description. If you'd like to upload an image, you're more than welcome to. Go through the eligibility acknowledgement, make sure that you agree to all of the items. Noting here that we're asking that you please confirm that you're a member of the National Community Solar Partnership. This is a really easy requirement. You just follow this link and essentially create an account, and that gets you looped into the broader NCSP community. Highly recommend. And then we'll go into the cover page talking about the organization and team. We're going to ask you some information about yourself and your organization. And then down here's the phase 1 submission package. Please note that all of your uploaded material must be in PDF format. And we'll also be asking you for the email that you registered for the Introduction to Community Solar course, as well as the date that you completed it. We're going to talk more about that in just a moment. And then the final question is, if you were to win a phase 1 award payment, who would receive that payment? Please note that the name that you put in this box must match whatever's on your W-9 exactly. So those are the items. You can always hit save and preview if you're all filled out. There will be a button up here that says submit that you can click and submit. If you submit early, you're more than welcome to go back and adjust your submission up until the submission deadline. Otherwise, you can click save and come back to it later. Always a good idea to check out that submission form well ahead of the submission deadline, which I should mention is March 15th. And this is 3 p.m. Mountain Time because that's where I'm located, but it's also 5 p.m. Eastern, which is our published time. Note that the submission form is going to close exactly at 5 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Mountain. So at 3:01, you're no longer going to have the ability to submit. Highly encourage you to submit early. Make sure that you give yourself at least a good couple hours buffer there. It's no fun to get surprised. If you do run into any technical difficulties, you can always email us at solar.prize@nrel.gov, and we are here to support you. And then also you can find some really good resources on HeroX Summary. You can learn all about the prize, the timeline. You can check out when all of the major submission dates are, as well as any upcoming events that you need to be aware of. Updates, you'll be able to view all updates that we sent out. We normally send out quite a few. Form, if you would like to engage with other competitors on the HeroX form, you're more than welcome to. You can also ask us questions here. We monitor the form and are happy to respond. You can see who all else has signed up for the prize and is following. Good job, everyone, for following along and signing up. Very proud, gold stars. Resources, this is a really important tab. Here you can find a link to the phase 1 rules, as well as templates for both the narrative and the portfolio questionnaire, and then the FAQ. And with that, I will hand things back over to Jackie to share her screen. All right, so now that we've gone through HeroX and you now have an idea of where this information is supposed to go, let's talk about what you need to submit for the phase 1 ready contest. This is going to include the cover page, the portfolio questionnaire, a summary slide, evidence of completion of the Introduction to Community Solar course, as well as a narrative. We're going to look at each one of these in a little bit more detail here. The first requirement is the cover page. This information is going to be collected via HeroX submission form, so it's not a separate upload. And just please note that the starred elements will be shared publicly after winners are announced. Next is the summary slide, which is also going to be made public on HeroX. You can think of the summary slide as a high-level overview of your organization, plan, portfolio, maybe work that you've done, whatever you would like to highlight, not only for the reviewers and DOE and NREL, but then also for the general public. I will say that this is often the first item that reviewers look at to get a high-level summary of your team and projects. Think of it like like your handshake. So definitely put some thought into it. The next required item for your phase 1 submission is a portfolio questionnaire, where we're going to ask you to detail your past and current projects, as well as any planned projects that may go into your portfolio for the prize. We have a template available on HeroX to help guide your responses, but this is not required, and we'll be dropping that link into the chat as well, but you can always go to that resources tab. A really important submission element of the Phase 1 Ready contest is to complete the Introduction to Community Solar course through our partners at the University of New Hampshire. This introduction course is it is self-paced. It's not a live taught course. You can take it whenever you'd like between now and March 15th. The course is designed to help teams understand how to become community solar project developers for projects that include the 5 meaningful benefits. This course takes approximately 3 to 4 hours, so it's not something you can go through really quickly. Make sure that you plan for that when you are planning your timeline to submit to Phase 1. And we're going to ask that you upload the email that you used to register, as well as the date that you completed the course, and we'll be verifying your completion with the University of New Hampshire. Really, really important to get access to the course. It is not automatic. We have to manually add you to the course. So we're asking that all competitors please complete the request form. We're going to be dropping this link into the chat as well. Go ahead and do it right now so that you are well set up and prepared to get access to the course so that you can complete it whenever it makes sense for you and your schedule. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. The final submission requirement is the narrative, which is really the heart of your Phase 1 submission. For the narrative, we ask that you respond to a series of questions and prompts within 4 areas. And those 4 areas are organization and team. Describe your organization, past experience, and what your team looks like, who is on it, and how they would benefit from participation in the Community Power Accelerator Prize. The next category is portfolio plan and goals. We want to know what your plan is to implement a portfolio of at least 1 megawatt of community solar within the next 3 years. And you are able within that section to point back to your portfolio questionnaire and build upon that. Next area is community engagement and partnerships. What is your plan to engage with and work in the communities that you plan to develop community solar projects? Are you thinking about engagement? Are you thinking about what barriers might exist? And then finally, and this really underscores the entire prize, diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. How is your work and your portfolio going to provide benefits and serve disadvantaged communities? You will have, for your narrative, 3,000 words to answer all 4 areas, which is approximately about 6 pages of text. In the rules document, you'll be able to find additional detail on the narrative starting on page 16. And on the right, you'll see a screenshot of the narrative detail and table. This is a screenshot from the rules document. On the left-hand column, you have the narrative prompts for what we would like you to discuss. And on the right are the related judging criteria statements of which your submission is going to be scored. So go to the rules document, check out these tables. You'll be able to see in detail what we're asking from you in each of these 4 areas and what you're going to be scored on. And we're going to talk a little bit more about scoring on the next slide here. So each submission is going to be reviewed by a panel of 3 to 4 expert reviewers who are going to score and provide comments on each eligible submission. Reviewers are going to review all submission elements and then score the narrative based on the judging criteria statements that we just mentioned. So that right-hand column of the narrative, those are the statements that are going to be scored on a 1 to 6 scale as shown on this slide. Also noting that CETO, the Solar Energy Technology Office, is the final judge, and they make selections based on the expert reviewer scores, comments, as well as program policy factors. Now on the next slide, so program policy factors are essentially elements that DOE and CETO will take into consideration when determining winner recommendations. And these are things like geographic diversity and potential of the potential winners. You know, are all of our winners going to be located in one region? Do we want to spread them out throughout the country? The diversity in the project or the program type. Is it different types of programs? And then the degree to which the submission supports and complements DOE's existing programs and strategies to achieve DOE goals. I would encourage you, I always like to highlight these because they can be a little bit buried in the rules, but I would encourage you to become familiar with the program policy factors that are listed on page 31, and let us know if you have any questions. A final note on phase one, the Community Power Accelerator Prize has partnered with the American-made Power Connector ADL Ventures, who is providing support to competitors in the Community Power Accelerator Prize. They're helping us with outreach and recruitment, making sure that the word is getting out to the entire community solar community. They are helping with application assistance and competitor questions. If you have a question or want to bounce an idea off of ADL, you're more than welcome to reach out to them. They cannot write or redline your applications, but they are certainly there for questions. If you come to me and ask me if your idea is a good one, I'm going to point you back to the official rules. ADL can have a little bit more of a conversation with you. So highly recommend. They're amazing. We work with them on a bunch of different prizes. We have our ADL prize lead here, Nigel. We have his email. Please reach out, and it's also been dropped into the chat. All right, before we head into our Q&A, I wanted to take a moment to talk about what competitors can expect in phases 2 and 3 of the prize. So phase 2. Phase 2 is going to begin in April 2023, shortly after phase 1 winners are announced. The winner announcement is likely going to come mid-April, so please keep in mind that the phase 2 learning lab will be starting on April 27th. So even if you haven't been notified of your status, make sure to keep that on your radar as a possibility. We'll be selecting up to 25 teams to receive a 200K cash award and be eligible to compete in phase 3 of the prize. In phase 2, there are going to be 2 main activities and requirements that we're going to ask competitors to complete. First is the learning lab. Phase 1 winners will need to designate a single individual to participate in and graduate from the Community Power Accelerator Learning Lab, which, as Nicole mentioned, if you recall, is a live remote course designed to educate developers on community solar in disadvantaged communities. This course is going to run, apologies. This course is going to run between April 27th and June 29th, 2023. It is an 8-module course. There's some additional time built in there to catch up on work. So it actually runs to the 29th, but there's 8 core learning modules that are included. There will be weekly instructor-led Zoom sessions, and participants can expect to commit 6 to 8 hours per week during the course. So make sure that that's on your radar and that you're planning for it should you be successful in phase 1. The second requirement that we're anticipating in phase 2 is that teams are going to be required to complete the credit ready checklist to be fully ready to go to start engaging with investors on the Community Power Accelerator platform in phase 3. And then noting for everyone that we're planning to release a draft of the phase 2 rules before the end of phase 1 for competitor and broader community feedback. The rules, when they're ready, they're going to be posted on HeroX. So again, another plug to go to HeroX and create an account to start following the prize so that you are notified when these are released. It's really important to us that we get your feedback and that we are setting ambitious but obtainable goals for phase 2. So please, please, please keep an eye out for that and send us your feedback when it's available. In phase 3, we're anticipating that phase 3 is going to begin in December 2023, shortly after the phase 2 winners are announced. Again, up to 25 teams will be eligible to receive a $150K cash award. And like phase 2, we are planning to release the phase 3 rules for competitor feedback, and that will likely happen during phase 2. The phase 2 anticipated activities and requirements, we're going to ask that phase 3 teams begin to fully engage in the community power platform, work to secure investment commitments from investors and or philanthropic organizations for community solar portfolio of at least 1 megawatt. Teams will also continue to work directly with those technical assistance experts to create and refine their project portfolios, create an investor pitch deck, and really start engaging with our community of investors and lenders. And at the end of phase 3, another submission package will be due at the end of the phase to qualify for an award. So that's the information that we wanted to share with you today about the Community Power Accelerator Prize. We really hope that you are as excited for this prize as we are. And if you're interested in getting started, I've got a couple action items here for you. One is to follow the challenge on HeroX. 2, join the National Community Solar Partnership. There's the link there. We'll also be dropping it in the chat. That's a requirement for the prize, and it's just a great community to get engaged with. Read the rules, make sure that you're really familiar with everything that's in there. Sign up for the Introduction for Community Solar course. Get connected with Nigel over at ADL Ventures, and make sure that you plan to submit your phase 1 submission by March 15th, no later than 5 p.m. Eastern. If you have any questions beyond this webinar, our email address is solar.prize@nrel.gov, and we'll be happy to get you the information that you need to be successful. And with that, I think we've got about 12 minutes here for questions, and I'd like to invite Nicole back to help me answer some of these. The first question that we got here is from someone who is working on building a portable energy storage product that can enhance the value. So they're not necessarily the community solar developer themselves, but they're someone that could maybe contribute to projects and add even more value. Is there a place for them within the Accelerator Prize? And Nicole, I'll give you the opportunity to answer first, or otherwise I got some thoughts.
You jump in. I am in the middle of answering some of these Q&As on the
right.
top, but I will stop and be ready. Let me just hit send, and then I'll pay attention to you.
Yep.
So
well, you hop in and tell me if I'm wrong. Anyways, so I would say that the answer is yes, there's absolutely a place for you. However, the goal of the prize is to develop a megawatt of community solar. So you would need to partner with someone who is doing the solar development, but you could team and then put in a very strong submission that adds a lot of value. All right, next question. Will these slides be made available to share in the community? Yes, absolutely. We'll be posting them on HeroX under the resources tab. So go ahead and sign up and you'll get notified when the slides as well as the video recording are posted. Let's see here. We had another question about a community solar developer that's interested in partnering with faith-based community organizations. And is that something that's allowed within this prize? And I'll jump in here first and say absolutely. They are a wonderful partner, and we love to see different submissions of all types. All right, another question here is, are environmental engineering consulting firms who are helping developers site design and service these community solar farms included in the Accelerator ecosystem, partnership, and prize? So this is another one of that I would go back to the first answer of partner. And you know, you as a community solar developer, co-developer, you can certainly go and partner with these organizations and help to make these submissions even stronger.
Yeah, and Emily, I'll just add to that. So for the TA providers will certainly, like help you go through the checklist that we mentioned earlier, and one of which is going to be engineering and site design and things like that. That's part of this process of, supporting you with prize dollars to go find the appropriate engineers and other third-party supporters, so that you can get your project ready to be financed. And so, the old saying of you need money to get money. And so that is sort of the intention of this prize here. It's really helping you answer all of the questions and do all of the work in order for you to get that longer term construction capital and other debt that you need to deploy.
Thank you, Nicole. Another question: for expanding solar developers, would it be necessary to receive the training, consulting, coaching in order to even be competitive and participate in the competition? And my answer is, hey, we're looking for those new community solar developers who, and we're going to be providing the training and the coaching to be successful in phases 1 and 2. So even if you're brand new and you do not have that foundation, I would strongly encourage you to submit to phase 1, because you are who we are looking for, in addition to expanding and emerging community solar developers. Another great question about the training curriculum, and is it designed so it can be done outside normal business hours? And the Zoom sessions themselves, so there's going to be 90-minute Zoom sessions that will likely happen within working business hours. But I would imagine that the reading, any homework, assignments can all be done outside. And I'll be sending out a HeroX update, so make sure you're signed up. That has more details around exactly when each Zoom session will take place, so that you can start marking, putting tentative holds on your calendar. Next question. Hearing that prize money can be used by organizations however they see fit, I'm assuming that it can be used for capital investments or construction of community solar. Just wanted to confirm. And yes, 100%. When I say the money is yours, no strings attached, that is exactly what we mean. We never come back to you and say, hey, how did you use that money? Please send us an accounting. Truly, that is yours. We hope that you take that money, turn around and invest it within your community solar projects. And you're certainly going to need it to be successful in phases 2 and 3 of the prize if you want to continue on in the pipeline. So certainly making wise uses of your prize money is strongly encouraged. But again, how you do that is completely up to you. All right, another question. I am with a local government that is interested in partnering with an organization that wins phase 1. Is there a way to get connected with those phase 1 winners? Can you email me? Oh, sorry. Is there a way to get connected with the phase 1 winners? And phase 1 is happening right now. So we don't have winners, and we won't have winners until at least early to mid-April. Once we do, we will be publishing all of our winners on the HeroX website. That will happen under the Teams tab, and you are more than welcome to reach out to them for partnering opportunities. I would say during phase 1, if you wanted to maybe get a jump start on the partnering process, you can go ahead and use the Teams tab within HeroX, as well as the form to start making those connections and partnerships. Okay, we have another question about if this program will be open next year as well. And will we run additional cycles of this prize? I would say, and Nicole, please step in here, that it's an option that we're evaluating, but nothing has been approved or set in stone. So if you think that you want to apply, I would strongly encourage you to apply to this round of the Community Power Accelerator prize.
Emily, sorry, I missed the first part of the question.
No problem. I said that it's certainly a possibility, but nothing has been approved or announced yet.
What was the possibility?
Additional rounds of the
Oh, got it.
Accelerator
Yes.
prize. Sorry about that. Nicole, let me know if this is a question you can answer. Is the 1 megawatt target DC or AC? And if not,
So I saw that in the chat. We actually didn't specify this in the prize rules itself. So Emily, we'll need to circle back up on whether or not we need to make that edit or just say we did not specify, and you know, we'll take either one. So I think that's going to need to be a follow-up answer.
Wonderful. Thank you. I was thinking that. And this might be another one that warrants a follow-up answer. Is there a 1 megawatt max size limit for securing some of the IRA tax credits and direct pay? And does that 1 megawatt minimum size for the prize conflict with this? And I don't think that guidance is out yet, Nicole, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's in the statute, there's going to be guidance coming out for a number of the tax credits shortly. And, you know, we designed this prize in a way to hopefully be in alignment with what the legislation said. You know, obviously that guidance we haven't seen yet, but we'll be obviously paying attention and ensuring that we're being helpful in making sure that folks are able to sort of coordinate and align with, you know, all of the available types of programs and subsidies and funding opportunities out there moving forward.
Absolutely. Nicole, in the Q&A box, is there any questions that we didn't cover that you want to make sure that we cover?
There's a whole bunch of questions in here around, like, we're a current developer and we want to expand into like new markets or start including meaningful benefits into our projects. And like, do we qualify to apply? And I just want to make sure that everybody hears that. Like, the answer is absolutely yes. This is both for those newer folks that are looking to get into this space or sort of been peripheral to the community solar space, and folks who are in this space looking to make their projects more meaningful or operate in new markets that have those meaningful benefits. And so again, like, if you're looking to expand into a new market, we want to make sure that you're also including those meaningful benefits in that new market too. And so yes, absolutely, for both. And I think there's also questions in here around, like, well, if we're a newer developer, won't we score lower because we haven't developed any projects? The answer is probably not. Like, we designed the narrative as a way to get more new folks in this space. We need a lot of really good organizations, and that includes new organizations deploying community solar, and we want to be incredibly supportive of helping build up those new organizations. And so I would say I would encourage those newer organizations to apply as well.
100%. And we'll be communicating that to our team of expert reviewers as well, so that they are aware when they're scoring that, yes, we are looking for those brand new to community solar development. With that, we are at time. Thank you to everyone who submitted a question in the chat and the Q&A. If we did not get to your question, we will follow up with a written response shortly after the slides and the recording of this webinar is posted. Give us a little time. We received lots and lots of great questions, but we will post those to HeroX and send out an update when those are available. We'll also follow up with an email to all registered competitors just to make sure that you are able to see the response. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining today's presentation. We're so excited off this brand new prize. A special thank you to my co-presenter, Nicole Steele from the U.S. Department of Energy Solar Technology Office. And we'll be posting a copy of these slides and webinar recording to HeroX in the next few days, and we'll be following up with those responses to all of the great questions that we received. This concludes our webinar, and thank you so much for joining us.